All right, welcome back, everybody. How are we all doing today? Let me just get a screen up. Monday morning, scalping the ES at New York Open. We've just opened. Morning, Dave Bell. How are you, my friend? How's everyone's weekend been? I hope it's been a good one. I'm just going to draw out some levels. So obviously we had this huge push up in the pre-market, right? I think that was down to Trump announcing he won't be, or he's put a pause on striking Iran's energy infrastructure. I believe that was the massive, this is ridiculous. This was, just alone this move. Let me just have a quick look what we're looking at. Yeah, that was a almost 4% rise on the ES. So quite a significant move. Are having a pullback now. The question is, will it continue? This is a tough one because this was obviously very news related. Is that all it's going to give? Are people starting to price it back down and, start thinking, well, all right, the reactions happened. We can start coming back down because then it could be a full scale reversal. It's a really hard one to gauge at this moment in time. Alexis, good morning to you, my friend. How are you? I'm doing very good. I'm doing very, very good, Alexis. And Dave, I'm doing good as well. Thank you. Mohammed, guten tag to you as well. How are you, my friend? Yom, it's Sid, right? Yom is Sid. Yo, how are you doing? Peter, you're back. Amazing. Hey, Sammy, massive run, eh? Damn, man, we need to get a Pelosi red phone. This is it, I wasn't checking the order flow, but I would imagine someone probably knew about that push before it happened and probably made a very nice bit of money. Nils, great to see you. How are you, my friend? Yes, bro, me Sid. Amazing. See, I'm starting to memorize everyone's username and their name and all that. So pretty cool stuff. But like I was saying just a minute ago, this is a very tough decision right now because, okay, so we got quite a nice gap a bit higher up. If we get there, great. I'll definitely be interested in shorting it. Don't get me wrong, there are gaps below, but a lot of them were created by this huge, push up because of the whole Trump not striking energy infrastructure in Iran. So the question now is, do traders as a whole view it as, okay, the reactions happened, that's all it's going to give, and we can start pricing it back to what they believe is kind of, fair value? Or are people going to be buying the dip essentially and say, hey, this whole massive push down we had is we're going to undo it? Very hard one to gauge, especially after a reaction like that. Very hard to gauge. So the best thing we can do is look at the order flow and try and see where the big players are, what they're kind of, who's putting money on the table, who's not, and see if we can just get some little scalps here and there. I wouldn't really want to hold anything at this moment in time. It will be a very much more kind of, scalping it in and out type trades rather than, trying to hold for big moves, because very hard to read. Once people realize Trump lied in his post, everything will go to shit again. Well, yeah, if he goes back and then you're absolutely right, Nils. You're absolutely right. So let's look at the open, which was, here. That's the open. Again, very balanced. You can see it in the volume. Very, very balanced. You've got buyers, big sellers, big buyers, big sellers, kind of all over the place. Yes, sellers seem to be doing a bit better right now. I would say sell pressure is definitely winning from 610 to 400, another 100, and now another 700. Sellers are definitely a bit more aggressive. But it can change instantly. It all depends where buyers believe. These lows here are going to be interesting to see if, buyers are willing to step back in at these lows. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one today. I don't think there's true direction at this moment in time. What's the best site to get market news on? So scheduled news you can use like Forex Factory. That's absolutely fine. But if you want like really up-to-date news, Financial Juice is probably the best one. CR23, do you mark 1 hour point of controls and scalp there? I don't use point of controls to trade off. I keep the point of controls more as kind of areas where I expect, if I'm in a trade, I might get out at the point of controls like a take profit. Obviously, I keep my eye on them because they can bounce, but I don't use them as entries. And I don't mark out every 1 hour point of control. I've never done that personally. So we shall see. We shall see. I mean, the sellers are definitely taking control. You can see the volume distribution on the 1 minute. It's starting to look a bit more bearish, a little bit, in terms of, majority of buyers, we're above majority of buyers. If we take all the buyers that came in, all right, well, just a second, we're technically, above a bit buyers. But for a moment, we're, for the most part, I would say we're kind of trading below the buyers, but that could change now. If we get a bit higher, sellers might get squeezed out. There's again big volume coming in, but they're kind of failing. They're kind of failing. Might not be a terrible short here. Oh, big sellers just came in, but their sellers weren't pushing it down. Buyers just reloaded, so I'm not going to go short yet. I think buyers might actually break through here. Yeah, they're breaking through. Oh, sellers trying to take control again. Yeah, it's going to be a very, like I said, don't hold trades. At least not now. This is not the type of market you want to hold, in my opinion, right now, because there's genuinely no major direction as of yet. But buyers did take control right there. And now we're getting above, I would say, the majority of sellers, like these guys here, the 660, they're the ones who really kind of got the market down. And you could see the volume spiking up as we got there. I think they have got out pretty much at break even, those sellers. So I think those sellers are out the market. Sellers like here, like these guys, I think they pretty much got stopped out here. I think this move has pretty much been cancelled now. I think most people in that move are out the market. So what we're seeing here are fresh buyers. Now the question is, will these buyers able to push the market up? If they have some efficiency, might not be a terrible entry for a buy, and you can literally have your stops a little bit below them, right? Okay, let's go in for a buy. We'll have a stop below that candle. I can have a super, super tight stop. But it's still not confirmed. This all comes down to how efficient these buyers are. So it's not like a confirmation move. It's more of a front running it based on the fact that these are fresh buyers. We got fresh sellers coming in as well. But if we can stay above sellers and squeeze them out and keep doing that, we'll have a good move up. But it all really comes down to, like, realistically speaking, we don't want to get below this candle. Because if we get below this candle, there's a good chance these buyers here are going to, exit the market, and then the market can drop again a bit more until more buyers come in at a, better price, and then you just get the same cycle again, right? So this is a bit of a front run move, but I'm hoping buyers, these guys defend. It looks like they are defending a bit. They're trying to add more volume, which is good, but we really need to squeeze out these sellers. Where would the sellers have their stops? I mean, it's a hard one. Hard one to gauge where these sellers would have their stops. It might be above the candle. It might be probably could be above here to be super safe. So I would want to get kind of higher up to that black line. You're seeing volume spike a little bit as we kind of got above those highs. I'm assuming a lot of the sellers did get out there. It's hard to know exactly because it was a very, very tight. But look, sellers are willing to come back in again. We need to always get above the sellers. I'll look at the chat in a sec. Oh, there's not many in the chat. Ange, good to see you. How are you? I thought there was loads of chat messages and I just realized there wasn't actually any. Okay, good. That looks nice. As long as, come on, stay above that. They're reloading these freaking sellers. For a second there, we were above them and it looked like they were kind of giving up, but they came back in again. Sellers are still happy to trade, which is not good. We just don't want to, again, now really, we don't want to get much lower than this candle. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a big, big amount of buyers here. I mean, just look at the volume, 1,000, right? We get below basically my entry and we see a lot of sell pressure come in like around here. That means a lot of these buyers have probably got out the market. And then so my stop will have to be more probably around here, depending on what's happening right this second. Because we're almost getting below that candle. Let me just put a little line to it. Yeah, so we're getting below. The volume is starting to spike. You can see that. So some of these buyers, unfortunately, are out. And I think my stop might get hit. I mean, yeah. Oh, maybe not. Buyers are coming in. That was a very tight. That was one tick me from my stop there. That was super lucky. But I'm still going to hold it because I don't think all the buyers got out. More buyers trying to come back in. It's just a very choppy market. I mean, I got super lucky there. Let's be honest. That could have very easily been ticked out there. But if we saw like a massive spike in the sell volume, that would have been quite bad. All right, buyers are trying to take back control. That is good. I want to see if sellers are still willing to come in. They're still willing to come in, but a little, oh, no, 300. All right, let's get above them. Trap them really quick. Volume above, squeeze up. Above that black line, stop out all the sellers, and we're done. Come on. Come on, boys. Cheer on the buyers. I can't believe I didn't get stopped out there. There it is. Look at all that volume. As soon as they got stopped out, boom, boom, boom. A lot of sellers are being squeezed out right now. That's exactly what we wanted. But sellers are coming back in. That just dropped back. But buyers are coming back in, back up to 500. Good. So I know there's a lot of fresh buyers right there. In this area here, there was a lot of fresh buyers. This is hard to gauge whether it's fresh buyers or stops getting hit, but we know that there's fresh buyers. But look, sellers have come back in. So we dropped back down to 200. Let me just, good chance. Sellers are still happy to transact. I've got my finger on exit just in case a bunch of sellers want to come in and squeeze out those buyers. But it's okay for now because we're still above the buyers. Come on, add. We could see more buyers adding, right? Went all the way up to 300, but it didn't really go up much. So there is absorption, which is not good. And it looks like buyers might get stopped slowly. Come on, one last push. Sellers seem to be making a bit too much progress for my liking. I think those are buyers out, so I'm going to get out as well. That was a bit, like I said, quick scalps. To be honest, I probably should have got out on the push up rather than wait for extensions. I kind of went against exactly what I said at the beginning. I was like, oh, just quick scalps. Don't try and hold it. I would have been a much better trade, but I need to keep that in mind. Today's not a day you hold because there's no true direction. Do you know what I mean? There's no, especially in this area right now, there's no, like, I mean, it's starting to look a bit more bullish. I think the buyers want it a bit more. But again, you know, on the open, sellers wanted it a bit more. So it can very easily switch control again. There's kind of, it's hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge, all because of the little Trump news. It's caused a bit of a wedge. Cherry, good morning to you. Cody, great to see you, my friend. How are you? Am I correct to say that's a Sammy Hammerfoot at 141. Let's have a look. 141. Yeah, I would kind of count that as one. I would want to see a bit more sell volume, truth be told, because the sell volume is very lackluster. I want to see a lot of sellers trapped, similar to what we just saw here. Like, that's more of a hammer foot, in my opinion, because there's, all right, again, the volume isn't that great on the buy side, but it's okay. You know, it's a bit better, but there is a lot of sellers that are vulnerable, though. Generally speaking, I think with the hammer foots, it's better if there's more volume on the opposite side. So more buy volume, I think, is more important for a bearish move, and more sell volume is more important for a bullish move, because that means a lot of people are trapped. Do you know what I mean? Definitely someone getting stopped out there. But again, look, it looks like it wants to tilt back down, potentially. Very, very dangerous market right now. Did you have a haircut this weekend, bro? Looking fresh. I did. Tell my mate Sid he should follow your example. I did have a haircut. Yeah, much needed. Much needed. Coach C, good morning to you, Coach C. How are you? All right, so let's retrack what just happened. Again, very hard to gauge if these are real buyers, if they're people getting stopped out, because the structure isn't great. Do you know what I mean? If you actually look at the structure, it was kind of just very sort of sloping down. I think it's going to be a combination of things, but we did know for a fact, because I think it was this one or that one, I can't remember, one of these nodes, one of these clusters, there was a lot of true buyers. And I think a lot of them potentially maybe out the market. These bigger sellers at the bottom, I think, are more likely some of these buyers getting out the market. These are going to be fresh buyers, this 599. So let's see how they fare up. Can they hold the market? That 599 is definitely going to be fresh buyers. Now, if they get squeezed out, or if they're effective and can push the market up, they're struggling a bit to push the market up, truth be told, but they're still very much in the market, these guys, right? Here, they're probably going to, their stops are probably below here. So we're probably going to see a spike in volume on the sell side. So a bit of a spike, but nothing major. So I don't think they're out yet. Are they out? No, they're still in the market by the looks of it. Tiny bit of a spike. I think that is a lot of sellers. Yeah, they're coming out now. They're getting out. They're out. So those buyers are out. Fresh buyers came back in immediately. This is like one candle scalp type market right now. This is some tough price action. That first trade was a great call. I'm waiting for all this to calm down. Thank you, Cody. Yeah, I think letting it calm down is probably the better bet until we get some real direction. I think ultimately what it is, everyone's in the same boat, right? I mean, it's a bearish market on as a whole, right? No one can deny that. We've been very bearish for many days now. Then, you know, obviously Trump talking about not striking the energy facilities, boom, caused a massive reaction. And now people are questioning, well, is that the real question is in traders' minds? Was this whole bearish move down to essentially the war of Iran? Was that the main driving force of getting this market down? Because if it is, what Trump just announced is a very good, you know, it's good news. Potentially good news that the war might come to an end soon, right? Because he's backing off a bit, right? Obviously, he hasn't said that the war is going to end, but he basically said, look, we're not going to strike energy facilities. So that's like a positive. So therefore, there's a big reaction. Now people are going to question, everyone's eyeing up. Does that mean soon it's going to follow that the war might end? Because if it does, and this move was predominantly driven by the war, yeah, we'll just go back up again and everything will be priced. Or has the reaction, but people are saying, well, that doesn't mean the war might end. Maybe he could go back on his word. Like, do you see what I mean? There's so many kind of ifs and buts, and so yeah, not a great day to start the week in terms of so you're going to get this kind of very choppy, very indecisive market. And truth be told, nobody, unless you got some insider information of some kind, no traders, there's nothing within the price action that could kind of tell you, oh, it's going to go up or it's going to go down. You know, someone might say like, oh, look, it's hit this and now it's, you know, in hindsight, yeah, but it's not the reason. This is all fundamentals right now, fundamentally driven, the move. So it moves away from the technicals and becomes more a fundamental kind of market, and that causes that's just hard to trade. You know, it's very hard to trade because you can't really defend yourself on sudden. Like, I can't even imagine how many people just got absolutely wiped out on that, and there's no way of knowing. If you were, you know, hypothetically, even in a swing trade, you know, imagine you sold here and you're like, oh man, I am gonna make such a killing, you know, I'm gonna be, you know, super rich, and then one little boom, you cannot defend yourself. You just can't see it coming. And that's unfortunately what we're up against, you know, especially at times like this. That's what we're up against. And very hard to read, very hard to read. You need to make friends with someone close to the government, and then you can make a shit ton of money. You know, maybe does Trump have a single daughter? Any guys out there who can try and slide into her DMs? Maybe she can spill some information about what dad might do, and you know, share it to the group. Obviously, we'll all make a lot of money. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I actually want to see the order. I haven't actually looked at the orders before this move. I wonder if there's anything slightly suspicious. Oh. Well, there you go. Look at this. Look at it. They don't even hide it. They don't even hide it, right? Same shit. So this is the actual when the news dropped, right? And how many minutes before did someone pre-market, right? Pre-market before New York opened, placed a shit ton of buy volume. Well, that is a little bit suspicious, don't you think? That, you know, someone just happened to have a really good guess right there, you know. I'm telling you, you know what? It might actually be a great strategy right now. If you ever see some random spike in volume, like we saw on Friday, where someone shorted it just before the news, right? And right now, like earlier today at 10:50 my time, someone bought a shit ton, right? Absolute shit ton they bought. And then exactly at 15 minutes later, that person made an unholy amount of money. They're not even hiding it, are they, Peter? It's insane. But they'll never get investigated. Nothing will ever happen. So, you know, they don't care. Like, every trader in the world has spotted that right now and said, wow, what a son of a bitch, you know. Let's figure out how much they bought. Because if you look at the average volume, you can kind of see, because there's nothing special about that candle, right? Absolutely nothing special. There's no, you know, nothing really happened. But if you look at the average volume, so let's turn on the actual volume. Here we go. So on average, you're anywhere between 500 to 1,000, right? Was kind of average. And then there was an extra, 4,500 was the total volume. If we look at the buy volume, actually, let's just look at the average buy volume. We don't even need to look at the total volume because that's going to include stops and whatnot. But just the buy volume, yeah, around 500, I would say, is the total buy volume. And then all of a sudden, on that candle, 15 minutes before, 3,260. So you can probably say maybe 3,000 contracts is a fair kind of amount. Someone, whoever that person was, bought, 15 minutes before. And their average price, obviously, it's going to be distributed because they just cleared so many levels on the book. But let's just say about 50% is their average price, around there. It's where they got filled on average. And, where they exited, who knows? But let's just say they exited somewhere at the top here. You could probably see it in the order flow somewhere, right? They would have made, how many points are we looking at? Call it 200 points. 200 points at 3,000 contracts. Let me just ask ChatGPT because I can't be bothered to do the math in my head. If I bought 3,000 E-mini ES contracts, mini ES contracts, and made 200 points, what is my profit? Fuck me. Fuck me. $30 million, people. $30 million. Someone just made $30 million because they knew 15 minutes before Trump was coming out with that news. Do you see how it's rigged? Do you see how the average guy, the average trader, it's rigged against us, man. It's an unfair world. Information is absolutely where the real money's at. Exactly, Peter, in a couple of minutes, right? They were in 15 minutes. They held just through a bit of sideways action. They're not sweating. They're fine. They know what's about to happen. It's a done deal. $30 million because you knew a bit of insider knowledge. That's just insane. And they don't even hide it, man. Don't even hide it. Absolute insane. Well, there you go, man. That is the world we live in. Information is money. Oh, let's look at the chat for a bit. That is crazy, man. I'm telling you, there's a good strategy where right now, if you see some strange spike in volume, just jump in, follow it, because there's a chance that person knew something right now. And just, okay, look, if you're wrong, you're wrong. But almost follow unusual volume. If it's really random, not like an obvious high or a low where you kind of expect a lot of, transactions to happen. But if it's just in the middle of nowhere and you just see someone buying 3,000 contracts, jump on it, jump on the train, just copy their trade at this point because they know something, they know something. It's just, they're not hiding it anymore. They're not doing it subtly. It's just out there in the open. Eric Lake, welcome back, Eric. How are you? Coach, I just passed my Ola Futures. Amazing. Congratulations. 1,500 plus up. And today, I've made over 3,500. Incredible, Eric. You're always smashing it. Well done. But can't they trace who placed trades? Absolutely, they can. Absolutely. But nothing ever happens. This is the thing, Peter. Like, they're not gonna arrest their own friends, and like, you're looking at the. I'm not gonna say the word, but a particular person, initials JE, He had a list. Let's just put it that way. What's happened? Nothing. Like, do you know what I mean? There's no accountability. There's no justice for anything. You know, if you're in the club, it doesn't matter. Like they don't even bother hiding it now. Back in the days, insider trading was kind of hidden. It was very hard to see on like the order flow. Like you could see it, but it would be more kind of, a lot of absorption. It would be build up over time. It would be done kind of subtly to a certain degree. Sometimes it was a bit obvious, but it was subtly for the most part. This is just 15 minutes before. It's not even like, oh, okay, it's going to announce I'm going to start buying the day before, because then you could kind of make an argument. Well, it's one day. If someone bought a shit ton on Friday, for example, you can kind of argue, okay, they could have just got lucky. Who knows, right? But 15 minutes before, you're just taking the piss. Leaving it to the last second. What a joke. Wow, didn't see that pre-spike candle this morning. That's nuts. Yeah, I didn't even look until now, and then there it is. Dude, I was trading during that first big candle and made a good profit. Dr. Kais, man, well done. When I saw that gigantic one, I was like, yeah, I'm sitting this one out for now. Oh man. Rav, how are you doing? Good to see you. Neil says it's pocket money. Yeah, 30 million is pocket money for a lot of people. It is true. Guys, I was on another live stream this morning and somebody told us that the Hormuz Strait was open before the Trump tweet dropped. We knew. Same trade on NQ2. I'm live with Ola Futures. Woohoo. Well done, Eric. That's why many of them get into politics. A waitress joins US Congress and 5 years later a millionaire. Yeah, that's, man, insider trading. But the thing is, if you do it and you get caught, it's like an everyday Joe. Do you know what I mean? If you do it, it's like an everyday Joe. Say you're working for like a big, Fortune 500 company, and insider knowledge they're about to have like a merger or something, a merger with another company. Their stock is going to go up or whatever. If you bought like a shit ton, you'll get caught out instantly, right? Even if you got like your brother or cousin or family or something, if there was any unusual activity leading up to the merger, they look at this stuff, right? They'll know, aha, someone has just, some unusual activity. They'll look into it, investigate who bought it. They'll make the connection. You're fucked. They'll absolutely throw the book at you. So if you're like an average Joe, you don't get to experience. You don't get the same. You don't get treated the same. So you really have to be in politics to really make that kind of money. Shubham. Good morning, coach. What's happening about that spike? Shubham. Yeah, we're just talking about how that spike was obviously due to Trump announcing he's not going to be striking energy facilities in Iran. And we're just talking about how someone suspiciously bought 3,000 contracts 15 minutes before the news was announced and made what we calculated to be around $30 million in profit in a couple of minutes, because they knew, clear as day, of course they knew, it was about to happen. So we're just discussing the insider trading that we saw this morning. Interesting stuff. But I think that's a new strategy you can employ during this time. As long as, the war's still going on, as long as that kind of, you could probably jump on anything that looks weird, just sticks out. Like this just sticks out the volume. You don't even have to be an order flow trader. You don't even have to understand what the footprint's showing you. You can just see that sticks out. And you kind of need the volume. You can't just do it by candles, because you need to ensure that the volume is there. And we just know that there's volume there, right? Like it's pre-market, it's all small volume, and also you get a massive spike randomly. It's not even at an area that is significant or anything. It's just a random spike. Kind of, it's a good idea. It's probably a good chance that person didn't enter 3,000 contracts for fun. They knew something was about to happen and just follow them. Copy their trade essentially, because it's just how it is. Is it okay to stay away sometime from market as my stop loss is going to be so big? Oh, absolutely. No, no, no. Yeah, don't trade this right now. This is a very difficult market to trade, Shubham, right? At the beginning of the stream, I did explain it's a very difficult market to trade. And the reason for that, it really comes down to the psychology of what people perceive, right? Because we've had, in the longer term, we've had a really good sell-off, right? Nice kind of downward move. Oops, wrong tool. Nice kind of downward move, right? Now that move is predominantly, we can kind of say, is to do with the war in Iran for the most part, right? Trump announced something that is, could be seen as, de-escalation, and maybe there could be an end to the war in the near future, right? That caused a huge reaction up, as you would expect. Now the question is, do people, or do traders as a whole, what is their kind of perception about it, right? Are they thinking, okay, maybe we'll hear some more good news and the war might start coming to an end? In that case, we want to start buying, because if the war does end, we're going to have we're going to start going up again, right? Quite nicely. But if there's any escalation and he goes reverses on his decision and strikes keep continuing and everything goes to shit, then yeah, this is plummeting down. So there's obviously, two sides of, there's two different people. Some people might see it as, I don't trust what he's saying. I think he might go back on his word. I don't see this as that significant. Other people saying, well, actually, this is probably good news. I think it's probably coming to an end. And God knows, right? No one knows. Very hard to kind of gauge what the overall market and what the overall perception on that is going to be, unless you have some kind of, I don't know, survey or something. But so it's a very difficult market to trade right now, because there's no true direction at this moment in time. Okay, this market can drop, this market can go up. Nobody knows. Okay, so very difficult to trade. Be very cautious. I would recommend probably maybe sit it out for today. I wouldn't, don't, and if you do enter a trade, try not to hold it. It's very much a scalpy day. You might get a couple of candles here and there, 1 minute candles, but don't look for massive kind of moves. Maybe until something gets decided, until the overall kind of, I think until we start breaking, if we break above maybe this spike, the high, then I think more people will start seeing it as, actually, maybe this is starting to become more bullish and we might actually start going up. So I think there'll be less sellers in the market potentially and more people willing to buy. But at this moment in time, we're just kind of strangely in the middle. We're not really going anywhere. Buyers and sellers are fighting each other. No one really is agreeing with anything. And vice versa. I think if we break, especially if we obviously undo the candle, then yeah, that's done. Like, it's definitely a bearish market still. But if we get below this low, potentially, again, the same idea. People might start seeing it as, okay, maybe, that's all it is, just a little reaction to the news. But the majority of people still view, things negatively, and we might keep going down. So they'll probably attract more sellers. But while we're in the middle, it's a coin flip, absolute coin flip. It's just, there's nothing. Yeah, it's just, you don't know, sadly. So yeah. Not sure what else to say to that, really. That is kind of the situation. Uh, but we'll try and get some scalps in. I think we got one scalp already. Yeah, we did get one scalp in already, but we can probably get more. Let's just look at the recent price action since the open, and we can kind of figure out what might happen in the really short term. Okay, so the last little move that we had, I would estimate real sellers. Majority are probably real sellers. Definitely some people trailing, getting stopped out, but that's definitely people getting stopped out. That 350, this little spike in volume is definitely buyers getting out. You can kind of see it matching up with these guys here, right? That's them getting out at break even, so that's not real sell volume. I'll say an element here is real sell volume. Hard to gauge. I would say imagines probably some stops again. That 352 on the buy side is definitely real buyers coming in. These are real sellers. Sellers, by the looks of it, kind of got squeezed out for the most part. Real sellers coming back in, real buyers. So this is a real battle. Really, whoever wins here will have the next short-term move, right? Because now it's just buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers. It's just being kind of confined to a really small area now. But it will really only be the short-term move. So if we get above, the range, I can imagine we'll see some, there's the spike in volume. That's sellers. We just saw sellers get stopped out, but very easily could reverse and then, stop out all the buyers at the bottom, and then the move might happen. Who knows? But that volume there, it did spike very quickly. It's gone back to 56, but for a couple of seconds, you saw the spike go up. That is sellers getting stopped out the market. Fresh sellers still coming in. So I don't think it's truly over yet. The battle is still happening. Sammy Hammerfoot 205. Let's have a look. 205, 205. Yes, actually. I would call that a Sammy Hammerfoot. Yum. Or Sid, even. I would call that a Sammy Hammerfoot. Well spotted. Buyers coming back in. They're trying to push it up. I think buyers might potentially have it, but it's still very hard to. I mean, realistically speaking, again, you could try and follow those buyers, keep your stop literally, I would say below that candle, give it a little bit of room, but you could, if the buyers are able to get it up a bit higher, I think sellers will give up. So not a bad area to potentially just go in for a really quick scalp buy here. Because it does look like sellers are slowly, they're not piling on too many orders right now. They're actually putting a bit of volume in now. Actually, no, they are putting in volume. But buyers are buying it up again, drop back down. But if those buyers get squeezed out, then the move is over. No, the buyers came back in. There it is. Sellers are out. Sellers are out. So yeah, but then again, like, I take profit here. Don't try and hold this shit. Could have gone in for a really quick scalp, stop below that candle, like I said, and then, but the moment you see trouble, get the hell out. This is a scalper's market. Because look, instantly sellers coming back in, you're just kind of undoing the move potentially. It's very hard. Very, very hard. It's a scalper's market. One or two candles at most, in, out, when you see, those kind of setups. But because look, there's no way of knowing sellers were to come back in. Buyers stopped out a bunch of sellers, right? But the sellers are just willing to jump straight back in again. Now you're in that position where, it's getting close to your stop loss, and you got to hope that buyers keep buying it up and get above those sellers, and it becomes very difficult. So the moment the reaction occurs, like we saw that reaction, take your profit, get out. Wait for the next little squeeze, take your profit, get out. That's the kind of trading I would recommend right now. Like true scalping, micro scalping. Pube Tickle, good morning to you. How are you? Trading now is the easiest way to blow your accounts on your hands. Absolutely. Very, very easy to blow your account in these kind of market conditions. It's a very tradable market, but like I said, super quick scalps, right? You gotta be willing just to get the hell out. Let the market give you what it wants and get out. Because look, sellers did fail here, fair play. Again, sellers getting stopped out. You're seeing that volume spike every time we get above where there was a lot of sellers. People, and you can see it in the price action, right? In the order flow. You can see other traders are not having big stop losses, right? The sellers that came in here, you just saw them all get out, right? Right here. That's their stops getting hit. They're not having massive stop losses. They're treating the market exactly how I just explained. Very tight stops, very in and out. They're not trying to hold for huge moves right now. Everyone is just being really kind of cautious, If you're going to get into a trade, you've got to have a tight stop in this market, because you don't want to run the risk of being caught out, and it can move a lot potentially then if you do get caught out, and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. So you just want to be able to track who is new, who is, because obviously we're approaching, we did hit the high. Oh, we almost hit it. So I can imagine, there's going to be some take profits, some stops as well around that high. So we're going to see a combination of orders come in. Actually, no, not a combination. We're going to see a bunch of buy volume, I imagine. To be fair, I think a lot of that buy volume there was already take profits being triggered. Kind of makes sense as well. And I think I'm trying to focus what's going on here. There's a lot of sellers coming in. I'm trying to figure out, are they real sellers? Are these buyers exiting manually? I truly are. There's a bunch of, there's the buy volume that I was expecting. Big spike in buy volume. There it is. Huge. Boom. That's a lot of take profits, a lot of stops getting hit right there. Sellers who sold, right? They had their stops a bit higher up, a bit above the high, right? Didn't have it at the high. They had it a little bit higher up, which is normal, of course. You just saw them all get taken out. Look at that spike. So, those are not true buyers. That's sellers getting completely, annihilated. Bit more people who held a bit more, maybe people who got in here, maybe people who got in earlier. Doesn't matter. But sellers in the move, all getting stopped out right there. So it's relatively easy to actually follow. Do you know what I mean? The order flow. It's not actually that difficult to kind of figure out what is happening in the market. As long as you apply logic to what you're seeing, then it actually, it kind of makes sense. Because then you can almost guess where the volume's going to spike. Do you know what I mean? It just makes sense. Like, we knew there's going to be a spike in volume above this high, above this black line, this high, because naturally you just know there's going to be stop losses up there, right? And take profit orders. There's going to be a lot of sell limits there, and buy stops as well. So now we're seeing, fresh buyers coming in, trying to get this market up. So these people are the people we want to keep our eye on. We don't care about these guys because that's I wouldn't call real volume. That's more just, like I said, take profits, stops getting hit. There's no true intention behind that volume, right? This, however, has got true intention, right? Same with these guys here, these sellers coming in. This is the battle that we want to keep an eye on, right? We've got real buyers coming in. There's really not many sellers wanting to sell right now. There's a few sellers trickling in, but the idea is, can we squeeze out those buyers? Potentially we can, right? If we get much lower than those buyers and you see the volume spike, if you see a big, if you see a lot of sellers like around here, that's a lot of those buyers getting stopped out. Potentially, we can have a move down, right? Potentially. But we're not really, we can see the buyers are still in the market. We didn't really get any massive spike in sell volume where you would expect, people to exit. We're just seeing some sellers come in, but they're not really doing much, are they? Right? They're not really doing much. Now, you can imagine a lot of the sellers that did come in will probably be getting stopped out now. That's why there's a spike in volume, right? Because if you sold here and here, there's a good chance you have a tight stop just above that little high there, and you've just been stopped out, boom, and you're getting, all your stops are getting hit right now. That's why there's, again, a spike in volume, right, on the buy side. That's these guys getting knocked out. So the only real volume in the market right now with intention are these people, maybe a few of these people, but we know that's a lot of stop losses, right? So now we want to trade a little bit below that high. That's real sellers coming in, getting trapped. That's real buyers. We know that's real intentional volume here. So it depends what happens here. Here's the battle, right? We can easily drift below this 577 because that's not true. That's just stop losses. They're not true buyers. But drifting below that 400, yeah, that's going to, actually cause a reaction. But you can just see real buyers coming in. So, we're getting to another high here. So let's just put a little line there. Let's see. We can imagine there'll be some take profits again. Do you know what I mean? Potentially some stop losses. For people who sold on this move down, there's going to be some stop losses. So let's see how the volume, boom. Again, you're seeing the spike in volume, right? 619. People are getting stopped out, right? Take profits, sorry. That's most likely take profits. Stop losses are going to be a little bit higher, I think. You're probably going to see it now. There it is. Just as I said it. 600 went right up. That's the stop losses getting hit. Right? Did you spot that? 600 something went up to 600 a buy contract. That was the seller's stop losses. Because we know their stops are going to be a little bit above the high. These guys here, that's 600 that I'm circling right now. They are take profits from people who bought here. That was a bunch of stop losses. So do you see how easy it is actually to read the market, right? It's not that difficult to read. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't really give us a trade right this second. We kind of have to wait until, new volume comes into the market. And now we're seeing some fresh volume come into the market. These are real sellers trying to short the market, right? But we don't want to jump in. We want to see what those sellers do. Are they, and there's also going to be an element of real buyers here. And the reason I say that is because it spiked up to like 600, right, to the buy side. And then it went all the way back down to like 50, right? And then it's closed at 476. So you know that there's at least 400 or so real buyers in this little area there. So this is partly real buy volume. And you're probably seeing, look at this spike in sell volume. What do you think that is, right? That's a lot of buyers who have been trailing this whole move up, right? All these buyers who've been trailing, who haven't yet taken profit, got out, they're just trailing bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. They're getting out. That's buyers leaving the market. Okay, so it's not true sell volume right now. That's buyers leaving the market. We know that these sellers at the top are probably not buyers trailing out, because you're not going to trail up here if it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, you have to give it a little bit of room for trailing. But yeah, these people are out. Potentially some of these buyers maybe have just quickly got out and got a bit panicky. But essentially, that is buyers getting out the market. And that's why the market can now, look, and there was our move. We just missed it, sadly. But we just saw potentially the move, right? Let me just highlight this and show you guys what I saw, right? So we know that's buyers getting out, right? Fresh buyers tried to come in and take control. Sellers traded below them, trapped those buyers. That could have been potentially, a short there, a scalp short. If we get above here, we're out, right? So jumping short, above there, we're out. Does that make sense? But in order for this move to continue, we need to see sellers keep coming in, and pushing this market down. Boom, coming in, pushing this market down. But again, you want to be very cautious. You want to get the hell out the moment you see any sign of trouble, right? But that was our move right there. I mean, we could have jumped in, to be fair. We had a few seconds to jump in. But either way, around here, you wanted to potentially short the market. So like up here, you could have jumped in. Your stop will be there. And in terms of take profit, I mean, look, you could target these highs. You could target these lows. Who knows, right? But ultimately, it's best to kind of just see where the moment you see the trouble, just get the hell out, don't scalp, true scalp day, scalp. You're seeing a bit of, sell pressure still coming in, but they're starting to, they're doing all right, to be fair, actually. 300, back down to 150. You're seeing a bit of buyers coming in here, but sellers are still reloading, so it's okay. We're back to 300. We've cleared it, good. We want to see that sell pressure keep coming in on every level. Right, back to 147, back down to 40. That's an extra 100 came in. And you're seeing a little bit of a struggle happening here. So this will be my first sign of like potentially look to get out. If we can't get much lower, we want to get out. But sellers are still coming in. There's like a little bit of an absorption happening around here. Buyers are trying to come back in. This is your first sign of trouble. If I was in that scalp, I would probably exit any second. I'll give it another couple of seconds. 120, that's good. Oh, fresh sellers, good. All right, that side is cleared. And more fresh sellers, very good. They're actually doing quite well now. Bit of buy pressure came in. Let's see how these people fare up. If they have trouble, then you get out. So if anyone did take that short that I just called out, I would still be holding. 420, 410, 500, they're adding. Sellers are starting to get absorbed here. Again, bit of a sign of trouble, but nothing too terrible. 600, they are struggling here, sellers. We don't want to go much higher than here, really. Any higher than that 393, I would be out. Something is happening. Yeah, I'd want to get out, and I would get out here. Exit. I don't like how the buy volume is coming in right now. And there's a lot of sell volume there. Struggle to get it much lower down. I would happily take the money right now. So you would have had a little trade if we jumped in from here to like here. Not bad, right? So that's the kind of market I would that's the type of trading I would do in these market conditions. Just true scalps, no kind of, but again, you're reading, who's in control. Not just who's in control, but who's actually like, where's the real volume? Do you know what I mean? Who's putting in real market orders, like genuine volume, not stops, not take profits. It would have actually been okay. Sellers came back in, but still, you rather be cautious in a market like this. I mean, fair enough. Look at these sellers are coming back aggressive, but could have very easily, gone back up again. You don't want to mess around. Take your money out. It would have still been a good trade regardless. I mean, you would have got in like around here. You would have had your stop up there, and you would have got out around here somewhere. Yeah, still a 1 to 2, not terrible, right? Not terrible at all. And now we're going to figure out, in terms of the volume, we've got loads of lows down here. So you don't want to put a little line here. You can imagine there'll be a lot of stop losses there. But we're just trying to read, where's the real volume? Where's the fresh people coming in? I hope that makes sense. Let's see what we're saying in the chat. Like 13, please help coach and smash the like. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, if everyone can just take a couple of seconds to hit the like button, it does really help me out. I do appreciate that. Thank you, Eric. Between now and last night, over 3,600. Incredible stuff, Eric. Amazing. Pew Tickle says, man, I went long once. London session opened to test out a swing trade and went to bed, woke up and I was up 17K. Too bad it was on a demo account. Oh, hey man, look, it's what can you do, right? Brian Rowland not allowing shorts to get out. Exactly. On that move up, they weren't allowing them. They're trapping those shorts every time. But the moment the majority of buyers got out the market, a lot of them got out at little, take profit levels. I can't remember exactly where they all were, but this was like the big chunk of, buyers that exited. As soon as that buy pressure isn't in the market anymore, it has a bit more freedom to move down if sellers are willing to jump in. Only if, right? Doesn't guarantee anything, but we did, luckily, in this move, sellers were willing to short the market, right? So they managed to actually get the market down nicely because the buyers were out the market, right? So very, it's actually very easy to read this market right now in terms of, scalping and order flow is actually quite good to read. But yeah, see this area here, there was just a little bit of trouble in this area. We saw the first signs of trouble come in here. Yes, we had a big, sell candle, but these sellers right now are probably in a bit of trouble, right? If we get above here, we're going to see those sellers get stopped out, and we're going to see a bunch of buy orders in this area right here. So let's see it in real time if it does happen, of course, right? Because we can imagine that those sellers that did jump in, there's going to be a decent amount of stops just above here, right? We're seeing a bit of a spike, nothing major yet. Maybe they're not stopped out yet. Maybe not. Little bit. But sellers are still, a few sellers you can imagine got stopped out. We did see a bit of a spike in volume, but nothing too crazy. Maybe a lot of the sellers got their stops a bit higher up then, maybe above this actual high here potentially, right? But sellers are willing to jump back in. Look at these guys. Look at them. Willing to get back in. They're coming in very aggressively. This is where the battle is right now. This is going to determine whether we go up or down for the short term. Sellers coming in very hard. Are they able to push the market down? Are they able to break through here? Or are buyers going to take out this little high here, post some volume, see these sellers get stopped out, and then we go back up? That's the question. But sellers are coming in more aggressively. It looks like they just about took control, these guys here. They weren't willing to completely get out the market. So do you see how earlier I was saying, when the buyers got out the market, and we saw that there, right? It was able, as soon as their pressure got released, it was able to move down a bit easier, right? We're not quite able to move up that easily yet because there's still sellers in the market. They haven't exited yet. Maybe a few exited there, but nothing substantial. We're looking for bigger numbers, right? They still haven't got out the market. They're holding and they're adding. They're adamant. They're really defending. You can see the volume they're posting right now. They're trying to hold this line. I can imagine their stops aren't far away. They might get squeezed out, these sellers. Buyers coming in. I might go in for a buy purely to see because if we squeeze out these sellers, this is going to be great. And I can have my stop quite literally just below here, right? Because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Because I'm seeing buyers come back in. I want to see the volume spike. Somewhere here is going to be their stop losses, right? Or maybe above that black line. If we get there, but they're still coming in. These sellers are still defending. It's these guys here, right? These guys here being extremely adamant, right? We don't really want to get much below those buyers. Those buyers are our allies. But if these sellers keep coming in, of course, they can bring it down, right? But I am rooting for the buyers to stop out these sellers, but it doesn't look like it will happen, unfortunately. So the sellers just came in. They're not willing to let go, these guys. I thought we might squeeze them out there for a few seconds, but we didn't, unfortunately. It is what it is. And look at that. They're coming in super strong. They're not willing to let go. Now, the real move would be when they actually exit the market, right? If we actually saw them exit, maybe a bit higher up, then yeah, that would be probably a safer move to get in. But you can front run these trades. It's not too bad to front run occasionally. But it looks like those sellers are adamant, these guys. They're not willing to let go. Buyers still coming in. Now, I can imagine a lot of them might go to break even because they were in a bit of trouble here, those sellers. Didn't see him really. Didn't see a spike there, so I don't think they went to break even. What are we looking at here? Sammy, what am I learning from you is that to have success with trading a footprint, to learn to identify the fresh buyers, sellers versus stops and limits being hit. Exactly. Exactly that, Peter. Exactly that. Being able to identify, fresh sellers versus, where people stops are and stuff like that is super important. Because you can figure out then, who's coming into the market and who's not, right? So right now, there's just a bit of a battle. Nothing too crazy. Buyers are still kind of holding. These sellers are still in the market, right? And they came in heavy again. And because we took out that low there, I'm just going to draw it out. Ugh. Didn't quite take it out properly. We didn't really see a spike. Maybe it did spike up, but I wasn't looking at the screen on that moment. So I don't know exactly what happened here, to be honest. I wasn't looking at the screen. And we got they're fresh sellers by the looks of it. I think it could potentially be some of these buys. It's starting to get a little bit more difficult to read because it's all compact in one little area now. But there is something, there's definitely absorption there. You sound like you're in the dark. NQ is literally just opposing oil right now. I'm sure it is. I don't see what that has to do with anything though. I'm talking about the live order flow. I'm not talking about oil or the NQ right now. And why do you think it's opposing oil? If you go back to the beginning of my live stream, Vlad, is it Vlad? I already spoke about the fundamentals, okay? We're just looking at the order flow right this second. 88 to 90 line in sand for me. 88 to 90. Where's 88, 90? Let me just get rid of my pen tool here. 88 to 90. Ah, right there. What about sorry, Brian, I'm a little bit confused. What about, are you talking about 688 90 like here? This kind of this little area there, is that in sand for me? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by in sand for me. Buyers comfortable above sellers, not so much. Right, I'm with you. Okay, gotcha. Also, just to let everyone know, unfortunately at 3 p.m. UK time, I have another interview with Ola Prime, a client interview. So 20 minutes, unfortunately, I will have to end the live stream. But yeah, let's see. We'll continue going until then. So yeah, those sellers never got squeezed out. They put up a big battle. They're still in the market, but I think what I'm seeing right now is, look, they've put a lot of, I don't think they're going to hold it as, because they've just put more volume in, right, to kind of defend their position. I think an element here was stop losses getting triggered at break even. I think they may have lightened their position, because what I believe happened, if I look at it, is they came in heavy here, right, put on a lot of volume here to try get the market down naturally. Market kind of came back up. They never got stopped out. They added a shit ton of orders here, a huge amount. It added a really, really big amount. Got, again, very close to getting stopped out. They added even more, finally got below most of their entry. And I think they lightened some of their position to put risk off the table at break even. Does that make sense? That's why we had a bit of a spike here as we got into their original area. I think they lightened some of their position at break even, because they've put essentially too much risk on to defend their original position. And now, you know, they got out break even, lightening their position a little bit. Does that make sense? And again, so I don't think these are truly fresh buyers on this at this moment in time. I think they're being just, because again, it would make sense, you know. And yeah, so this is a little battle here. And you can see it's struggling a bit more going down, because some of the sell volume or the sellers are out the market, right? Even if it's at break even, doesn't really matter. Either way, some of their position has been lightened. And I think definitely fresh sellers coming in, but not as aggressive as before. Little bit of aggression coming in. But again, it's a 50-50 kind of area right now. There's no, it's anyone's game. Sellers, if they come in aggressive enough, they'll bring it down. Buyers can come in aggressive, and I think they could push it up this time, because I think a lot of the original sellers are lightened a lot of their position to kind of, you know, take risk off the table. But it does look like sellers are coming back in a bit. So it's a 50-50 for me. I mean, you could trade it like a range, but it's really probably not worth it because it's only a few points. Well, actually, 9 points. That's not too bad. It's a bit bigger. Sorry, not good typer. That's all right, Brian. That's okay. Let somebody can read the footprint like some people read Braille. Just watch and learn, bro. Of course, oil is correlate, but you can call where oil is going. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. There's the sellers. They have made progress. So yeah, these sellers here were, again, we know those are fresh sellers, right? Naturally, anything below these kind of lows, we're going to treat more as buyers getting stopped out potentially. I don't know if we saw a spike, to be honest. I didn't see it in real time. I honestly don't know. I don't know if that spiked up or not. But look at those buyers trying to squeeze out now these sellers. This could be a nice move. Buyers came in. But how many of those are actually going to be fresh buyers? That's fresh buyers. I think that potentially, again, was some of these sellers here being super cautious and getting out at break even. I'm not calling that fresh buyers. We did see a big chunk of buyers just came in. It's gone back down to 60, whatever. So this is there it is, another 300. I think the buyers might take this. I would go in for a buy. Shit, where's my... I've missed it. Nah, the price is too bad now. Fuck. It went away without me. Does it do anything about this freaking pen tool thing? Because I've got this pen tool, but I can't click anything because it just becomes a pen. So I have to do that, and then I can... I didn't do it quick enough. This epic pen thing. But okay, hopefully you guys caught that anyway. That happened way too quick, but that was right there was our buy. I didn't want to... man, look at that move. That was the confirmation. That wasn't even a front running trade. That was a confirmation trade right there. We'll go over what we saw. I mean, you could probably see it in the replay a lot easier. But that really right there was the move. Because look, you had those sellers. We identified those were the fresh sellers, right? It went down and they got out the market. This is what's important. Seeing them get out the market is what's important, right? And we identified, because it happened so quick, right? It was a bit of momentum that was so quick. It scared them. They got out at break even. Those were the fresh buyers that came in. They actually got above. That was our move right there. Buy, buy, buy. This candle right here around this area was our buy. But we, unfortunately, was just a little bit too quick. I couldn't switch off the pen tool and all that in time. And then the move happened. And naturally, a lot of this volume is going to be stop losses, right? So imagine where's the last little high right there. Yeah, that makes sense. Any sellers who were still in the market, all getting stopped out around there. Potentially on the range as well, where we were. Like we had this range right here. Remember, we never took out the top of the range until there. Well, actually, no, that could be a lot of fresh sellers potentially, because we did kind of clear it a little bit here. Unless it's the one little tick area, I will have to make the footprint row size smaller to see exactly what happened there. No, it was stop losses. Because look right here. That was the high, right? The volume came in just 1 point above that high. That was all the stops. So it was stop losses. And that is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, call it over 500, right? All stops. So that was stop losses. Because we never actually cleared that area. That's a fresh area, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was stop losses. So that majority of that 700, over 500 at 700, we can identify were actually stops, right? They didn't quite get triggered there because their stops were a little bit higher. It was in that one point there. But look how quickly it can change. Look how quickly it can change. Dangerous market, man. So dangerous today. What the hell just happened there? Let's try and figure out what just happened. We've got 10 minutes still on this live stream, so let's try and figure that out real quick. All right, we know stops getting hit. Definitely some stops. Definitely stops. Definitely. Basically, all this buy volume is not real volume. It's all just sellers getting stopped out. So we can ignore it. This is real sell volume, right? That's real buy volume. So again, the battle is here, right? Not here. Ignore all this. This is just sellers getting stopped out. We can ignore all that. Oh shit, it's moved. That little area here is the battle, right? And those buyers failed, kind of got below them. It would have been a bit more of a front run trade, but you could have looked for a short there. But again, it's so choppy, this market. This is so dangerous because you've got buyers willing to transact at the bottom, sellers willing to transact at the top. It's because, like I said at the beginning of the stream, you know, it really depends. It comes down, you know, we've had positive news towards the Iran war. Most of the sell-off we've had in the last few days was obviously due to Iran, the war in Iran. Trump comes out. He's not going to bomb the energy infrastructure. Massive spike up. One person made $30 million by insider trading. And as long as we're, you know, as long as we're within, you know, that high there and that low there, as long as we're within that kind of range, it's buyers and sellers are going to be fighting each other. There's no true direction. So like I said from the get-go of today, be very, very cautious. It's only a scalping market until we clear those areas, because then there will be, you know, more people willing to buy, more people willing to sell once it, you know, clears those areas. But right this second, buyers and sellers, I mean, it depends what people view it as. You know, some people are viewing the news as something very positive and potentially this could come, you know, towards the end of the war. Other people are probably saying, okay, well, it's had the reaction. I don't think, okay, it was a bit of a de-escalation, but I think it's just going to keep escalating and we're going to get more war. So people are short. It's, you know, it is very, very up and down. So who knows? Who knows right now? Because, yeah, right now the volume is... So whenever you see a market like this last few move that we just had, these last few candles, this always becomes very tricky to trade, right? And the reason being is because, again, you've got fresh buyers and sellers squeezing each other in both directions, right? That 655, I think, maybe an element of buyers actually getting out, potentially. That's definitely fresh buyers. They're the ones who got trapped. They got squeezed out. I mean, you can almost see it. Look, this is almost a perfect, right? There they are. They got squeezed out right there. Those buyers, they got out. Buyers, fresh buyers coming back in. So we know that's not real sell volume. This is real sell volume. That's where the real sellers are. These buyers are out the market. This is all real buyers, right? So the battle is right there in that kind of box area. Real sellers, real sellers. Right now, anyone's, again, 50-50. We're back to 50-50, right? Sellers can take out these buyers. Buyers, if they put enough volume, can take out the sellers. No one knows at this moment in time. This is complete, you know, it all depends what happens in this area and who actually squeezes who out. That's the battle. All right. That is the battle right there. So we've got 5 minutes left of this stream, and then unfortunately I do have to exit. I mean, I do have to leave, but we'll keep looking. Hopefully we see something interesting happen. Hopefully we see. Looks like, realistically speaking, the buyer's stops are going to be, most likely below that wick. Majority of sellers, it's a tough one. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot up there. There's probably going to be a few there. Buyers are here. So that's buy stops, so BS. And sell stops, SS. Right there. And there's obviously going to be an element of buy stops as well there. Because everyone is going to have, bit different stop losses. So, but the main battle really is going to be in this area right here, right? And you can see the sellers are piling on, but the more volume they pile on, the more dangerous it is for them, right? Because if sellers lose and they get squeezed out, you're going to have a much more extreme move. You're going to have a much more, stronger reaction because there's a lot more sellers all getting wiped out. But you're probably going to see it. You see where that point of control is, that blue line? I can imagine if we get there, that's where you're going to see, buyers getting stopped out right here. And I can imagine up here is going to be more where the sellers get stopped out. So hopefully it happens before, and we can just kind of see the volume spike up there or down there. Let's watch it in real time, how it happens. But it's just a range right now. And that's why you essentially get a range a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? You get a range because they're just locking horns. A lot of the time it is people locking horns. They're both very kind of, they all build accumulation. That's essentially what it is, right? When people say accumulation, it is technically accumulation. They're just accumulating volume, right? Passively and aggressively, right? It's all just volume getting accumulated. Lots of buyers, lots of sellers, lots of buyers, lots of sellers, lots of buyers. Eventually, someone gets their stops taken out. Maybe fresh buyers come in really aggressively, see that as like a really good cheap price to get in, take out the sellers' stops, and then potentially continue if sellers don't decide to come back in. And so it's always like a domino effect, the market. It's never like a guarantee that, if stops get taken out, it will have to go that way. It all comes down, it's like a domino effect. You need a few things to happen in order, and then the whole move can play out. But I think I've ran out of time because in under 2 minutes, unfortunately, I have an interview. But guys, so we'll leave it there. I mean, pretty good day just to read the order flow, but as expected, it wasn't really going to go anywhere because of the news. Like I said right at the beginning, it's not going to be a day where you're just going to get massive moves, big trends. If you're trading it, scalp it. Do not hold the trade. It's all about scalping today because no one knows. It's no one knows, right? But thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Peter, take care. Cody, Rav, Dave, Ange, Eric, all of you, thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern. Have a great one. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.